Hello students, welcome to the first year logic class. Today we will discuss the second unit. So, in second unit you have propositions, nature of logical copula, then classification of propositions, reductions of propositions to their logical forms, then you have the distribution of terms, then sevenfold relation between propositions and fourfold relation of opposition between propositions. So, students, all of you know that logic is the study of arguments. So, here we study different arguments. We determine which argument is valid and which argument is invalid. So, what is an argument? An argument consists of some statements. What are these statements? The statements are nothing but the sentences, and the meaning of the sentence is called proposition. What the sentence says is your proposition. Now, there is a difference between a sentence and a proposition. There is also a difference between judgment and a proposition. Differences between a sentence and a proposition I have already discussed in the last class. Now, what is a judgment? Judgment ta kon? Judgment is a mental phenomenon. It is a mental product. That means it occurs in your mind. Judgment ta tuma mind re hue. This is a mental product, and judgment expresses the relation between two beliefs or two ideas. So, what are these two beliefs, two ideas? These are your mental entities. तेणु गोटे जजमेंट दुईटा बिलीफ भितर रिलेशन एस्टाब्लिश करे बा दुईटा आइडियाज भितर रिलेशन एस्टाब्लिश करे, and judgment is either true or false. A judgment figures or occurs in an inference. गोटे inference भितरे judgment रही थाए. So, judgments are the parts of an inference. So, inference, all of you know, this is a mental product, but when this judgment is expressed in language, it is called proposition. When the inference is expressed in language, this is called argument. So, जेतेबेले जजमेंट टाको आमे लैंग्वेज रे एक्सप्रेस करूछु सेटाको कुहा जाउची प्रपोजिशन. आउ जजमेंट गोटे इन्फरेन्स भितरे होची. इन्फरेन्स मध्य तुमर गोटे मेंटल प्रोडक्ट, मेंटल फेनोमेनन आम माइंड भितरे सेटा होची. तेणु इन्फरेन्स टा मध्य जेतेबेले लैंग्वेज रे एक्सप्रेस करा जाउची ताको कुहा जाउची आर्ग्युमेंट. नाउ there is logical proposition. What do you find in a logical proposition? In a logical proposition, there are three parts. One is subject, second is predicate, and third one is your copula. Now, what is the subject? I have already told you earlier that subject is that about which something is said. जहाँ विषय रे कुहा जाए सेटा हैला subject, and predicate is that which says something about the subject. Predicate subject विषय रे कुहे. And what is copula? Copula couples or unites the subject and the predicate. तेणु subject और predicate दुईटा को copula relate करे, unite करे. This is your copula. So, copula is the sign of relation between the subject term and the predicate term. तेणु सब्जेक्ट है जो विषय कह जाए, प्रेडिकेट सब्जेक्ट विषय कहब, कपुलार काम कौन, कपुला दुईटा को यूनाइट कर दुईटा को रिलेट कर, सब्जेक्ट टर्म और प्रेडिकेट टर्म को रिलेट कर. नाउ whatever is described about the subject term, that means the description part, the description part always belongs to the predicate part, it always belongs to predicate. Suppose the proposition is grass is green, this is a proposition. So, here grass is subject, green is your predicate and is your copula. So, these three parts are called subject, predicate and copula. So, this is your logical proposition. Now, we will discuss the nature of logical copula. What is the nature of logical copula? Copula, you know, this is the sign of relation between subject and predicate. Subject और predicate भितर ये relate करे जोटा सेटा को copula कहा जाए. So, copula should always be of the form is not or are not. Copula रा form टा सबो बेले रहिबो is नहले are नहले is not नहले are not. Copula सबो बेले एई form रे रहिबो. Okay. Now, logicians argue among themselves regarding the sign of negation in a negative proposition. Suppose you have a negative proposition that some children are not intelligent. This is a proposition and this is a negative proposition, and this is a negative proposition because of the negative sign not. Not thibaru taku kuha jauchi negative proposition. Now, the question is, this negative sign not should belong to the predicate or it should belong to the copula. ये जो negative sign रहिला not सेटा predicate रे रहिबो ना copula रे रहिबो. This is the question of debate. Now, some logicians say this sign of negation should belong to the predicate and some say no, this should belong to the copula. तेणु केते जण कहिले predicate रे रहिबो not, केते जण कहिले copula रे रहिबो not. Those who say that the negative sign should belong to the predicate, what is their argument? जो माने कहिले जे predicate रे रहिबो not, तांकर argument कोन? They say that proposition is a relation between subject and predicate. Proposition expresses a relation between subject and predicate, and copula is the sign of relation. So, copula shows how the subject and predicate are related. Copula shows that there is a relation between subject and predicate. Copula says that a relation exists between subject and predicate. तेणु से माने कहिले जे कपुलार काम कौन, कपुला कहूची जे सब्जेक्ट आउ प्रेडिकेट भितर गोटे रिलेशनशिप रही जेहेतु एटा अफर्मेटिव टोन रे कुहा जाउची तेणु कपुला शुड बी अफर्मेटिव इन फॉर्म. कपुला सबु बेले अफर्मेटिव रहिबो. तेणु द नेगेटिव साइन दैट शुड ऑलवेज बी शिफ्टेड टू द प्रेडिकेट पार्ट. तेणु कपुलाटा अफर्मेटिव हबो आउ नेगेटिव साइन जो नॉटटा रहिला सेटा प्रेडिकेट को शिफ्ट हे जिवो. सो इन द प्रपोजिशन सम स्टूडेंट्स आर नॉट इंटेलिजेंट, दैट प्रपोजिशन शुड बी रिड्यूस्ड टू द प्रपोजिशन सम स्टूडेंट्स आर not dash intelligent. This is the view of some logicians. So, गोटे group of logicians कहले कौन, not sign टा रहिबो predicate रे आउ कपुला रे रहिबो नाही, कारण कपुला देखौची जे दुईटा भितरे गोटे रिलेशनशिप रहिची. तेणु जेहेतु एटा अफर्मेटिव कहूची तेणु कपुला शुड बी अफर्मेटिव इन फॉर्म and negative sign should belong to the predicate part. But according to other group of logicians, the negative sign should not belong to the predicate part, it should belong to the copula. सेमाने कहले नाई नॉट साइन टा प्रेडिकेट रे देखा जब नाही, रादर एटा कपुला सहित आमे देखैबो। काहेकि कारण कोन ना कपुला इज द साइन ऑफ रिलेशन, copula is the symbol of relation between subject term and the predicate term. Copula shows how the subject term and the predicate term are related. तेणु copula देखौछि जे केमिति subject term और predicate term दुईटा जाक related होउछंती। You know there are two types of propositions. One is affirmative proposition, the other is negative proposition. In an affirmative proposition, there is a positive relation between subject and predicate, and in a negative proposition there is a negative relation between the subject and predicate. तेणु relation दुई प्रकार रहुछि, affirmative relation and negative relation, and as the copula is the sign of relation, so it should be capable of expressing both the positive relation and also the negative relation. तेणु से माने कहिले कपुला जेहेतु साइन ऑफ रिलेशन, तेणु कपुला पॉजिटिव रिलेशन एज वेल एज नेगेटिव रिलेशन दुईटा जाक रिलेशन को कपुला ही देखैबो। तेणु नॉट जो साइन टा रहिला साइन ऑफ नेगेशन दैट शुड ऑलवेज बिलोंग टू द कपुला, नॉट टू द प्रेडिकेट, and this has been agreed by all the logicians. So not sign, that means negative sign should belong to the copula, not to the predicate. Okay. Now sometimes you will find that there is a proposition, but in that proposition three parts are not distinctly expressed. तीनिटा जाक पार्ट डिफरेंट है कि देखा जाऊ नाहंती. द कपुला रिमेन्स मर्ज्ड विथ द प्रेडिकेट, कपुलाटा प्रेडिकेट सहित मिसिकरी रहुछि. सो इन दिस केसेस वी हैव टू रिड्यूस दैट प्रपोजिशन टू इट्स लॉजिकल फॉर्म बाय कीपिंग द थ्री पार्ट्स सेपरेट. आमे कौन करिबो जो थिरे कपुलाटा प्रेडिकेट सहित मिसिकरी रहिबो ताकू आमे पुणी रिड्यूस करिबु गोटे लॉजिकल प्रपोजिशन को जो थिरे तीनिटा जाक पार्ट सेपरेट हेकरी रहिथिबो. फॉर एग्जांपल द मैंगो टेस्ट्स गुड, वी कैन रिड्यूस दिस प्रपोजिशन टू दिस मैंगो इज ए फ्रूट which tastes sweet. कारण फर्स्ट प्रपोजिशन दो मैंगो taste sweet, this mango tastes good. Here there is no copula. You know copula should always be of the form is not, are not. Ethi copula nahi. So now we have reduced this proposition to a logical proposition in which three parts are kept separate. This mango is a fruit which tastes sweet. Now there are some verbs like walk, run, swim, laugh, smile, fight, all these verbs are there, and whenever these verbs occur in propositions, they describe some activities, Now these verbs, these words, when they occur in the propositions, they have dual function. तांकर दीटा फंक्शन थाए कौन. फर्स्ट फंक्शन है दे रिलेट सब्जेक्ट एंड प्रेडिकेट, दे यूनाइट सब्जेक्ट एंड प्रेडिकेट. वन सेकेंड दे डिस्क्राइब समथिंग अबाउट द सब्जेक्ट. ओके, बट यू नो इन ए लॉजिकल प्रपोजिशन three parts should be separate, should be shown separately. So subject should be there, predicate should be there, copula also should be there. Again the description part should belong to the predicate, description part should belong to the predicate. So here if we have these type of propositions, then we have to reduce those propositions to their logical forms by keeping the three parts separate. तेणु जो भर्ब गुड़ा आमर अच्छी लाफ रन वाक और ये जो भर्ब गुड़ा अच्छी से गुड़ाक सब्जेक्ट विषय रे किछि कहती डेस्क्राइब करती ता सहित सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट को मध्य से माने रिलेट करती मिसाती। तेणु यही क्षेत्र में आम कौन करूँ आपको आम रिड्यूस करदेबू लॉजिकल कपुला सॉरी लॉजिकल प्रपोजिशंस को जोटी तीन टा जाक पार्ट सेपरेटली देखा सब्जेक्ट प्रेडिकेट एंड कपुला। For example, Smita runs. So here you see there is no copula. We will reduce this to logical form that Smita is a girl who runs. Subject, predicate, copula. A bird flies. A bird is a creature which flies. So here also we have subject, predicate and copula. तेणु आम ये लॉजिकल प्रपोजिशन पाईगलु जो थे तीन टा जाक पार्ट सेपरेटली देखौथिबो। देन लॉजिशियंस also argue among themselves regarding the tense of the copula. Now the copula should be expressed in present tense or in future tense or in past tense. This is the question. But all logicians agree on this point that the copula should always be expressed in the present tense, because a proposition asserts a relation between subject term and predicate term at the present moment. तेणु कपुला को टेंस रे यूज हबो प्रेजेंट टेंस फ्यूचर टेंस ना पास्ट टेंस समस्ते वर्तमान एग्री करूछंती सब लॉजिशियंस माने एग्री करूछंती कपुलाटा सबु बेले आमर प्रेजेंट टेंस रे यूज हबो काहे कि ना सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट भितरे से रिलेशन टाकू देखौची एट द प्रेजेंट मोमेंट वर्तमान देखौची जे रिलेशन अच्छी सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट भितरे। सो कपुला शुड बी एक्सप्रेस्ड इन द प्रेजेंट टेंस। नाउ व्हाट अबाउट द फ्यूचर इवेंट्स and past events, what will you do there? So they say, logicians say that these temporal characteristics, these characteristics concerning time, the time of occurrence of an event should belong to the predicate part, because they describe something about the subject term. आमे जानिचु जोटा डिस्क्राइब करिवो सब्जेक्ट विषय रे जोटा सब्जेक्ट विषय रे किछि कहिवो सी प्रेडिकेट को बिलोंग करिवो। तेणु जदि हमर कोनोसी फ्यूचर इवेंट अछि पास्ट इवेंट अछि तार जो टाइम टा अछि दैट टाइम शुड बी शिफ्टेड टू द प्रेडिकेट पार्ट। सिपाही म्यूटिनी took place in 1857. So this is a past event. Here there is no copula. So we have to reduce this proposition to its logical form. Sipahi mutiny is an event that took place in 1857. तेणु जेकोसी पास्ट इवेंट थिबो फ्यूचर इवेंट थिबो से गुडा जेहेतु आमर सब्जेक्ट विषय रे सब कहउचंदी सेटा को आमे प्रेडिकेट पार्ट को नहीं जिबा। नाउ अगेन लॉजिशियंस आर्ग्यू अमंग देमसेल्व्स regarding the sign of modality. What is sign of modality? Modality means the manner of relation that exists between subject term and predicate term. It shows how the subject term and the predicate term are related. So, from the standpoint of modality, we have three types of propositions. One is necessary proposition, second is assertory proposition, and third one is problematic proposition. What is your necessary proposition? Necessary proposition means there is a necessary relation between subject and predicate. Predicate is necessarily related to the subject. This is your necessary proposition. 2 plus 2 must be 4. This is a necessary proposition. All angles of a triangle must be equal to 2 right angles. This is also a necessary proposition. Here must is the sign of necessity. Must is the sign of necessity. Here the propositions whatever we have, we do not get these propositions from our experience. We do not get these propositions from our observation. Observation ru आमे पाऊ नाहु. They have no factual significance. से मानकर कौनसी factual significance नहीं. So these are your necessary propositions. Then assertory proposition is that in which the predicate is related to the subject as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact. For example, cow is a domestic animal. Grass is green. Some students are honest. These are your assertory propositions. एगुड़ाक कुहाजाउची assertory propositions. These propositions they have factual significance because we get these propositions from our experience. Okay. Now, what is problematic proposition? Problematic proposition means the relation between subject term and the predicate term is probable. Here we are uncertain, we are not sure about the fact whether predicate belongs to the subject or does not belong to the subject. एठी आमे जानिनु जे predicate टा subject को belong करुची ना belong करू नाही, we are in doubt. If I say my friend may come today, this is a problematic proposition. This is a problematic proposition and may is the sign of problematic proposition. Here the relation between the two terms is probable. Okay. Some logicians say that these signs of modality like must, may, all these signs, all these symbols should be shifted to the predicate part. तेणु केतेक लॉजिशियन कहिले जो नेसेसरी प्रपोजिशन रो जो साइन टा अछि मस्ट आउ प्रॉब्लमेटिक रो जो साइन अछि मे एगुडा सब आमे प्रेडिकेट रे देखैबा. Those signs should not belong to the copula, those signs should always belong to the predicate. This is the view of some logicians. But other logicians say that no, these signs should not belong to the predicate, rather they should belong to the copula. अलगा लॉजिशियंस माने कहिले जे नाही एटा प्रेडिकेट रे देखा जीवो नाही, एटा देखा जीवो कोठी, एटा देखा जीवो तुमरो कपुला सहित. काहेकि कपुला सहित देखा जीवो? Because copula is the sign of relation between subject and predicate. कपुला सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट भितरे रिलेशन को देखाए. And so copula is the sign of relation and the signs of modality. They also show how the subject term and the predicate term are related. Signs of modality रो मध्य सेही काम सेमाने मध्य देखांती जे सब्जेक्ट्स आउ प्रेडिकेट्स भितरे को प्रकार रिलेशन रहुछि. तेणु कपुलार काम होची देखैबा सब्जेक्ट प्रेडिकेट भितरे की रिलेशन रहुछि. साइन ऑफ मोडालिटी रो काम मध्य देखैबा सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट भितरे को रिलेशन रहुछि. सो कपुला which is the sign of relation between subject and predicate term should be capable enough to express the sign it should be capable enough to show the affirmative relation and the positive negative relation and the signs of your modality like must, may, everything should belong to the copula. Okay. तेणु copula रे तुम्हें पॉजिटिव रिलेशन देखैबो, नेगेटिव रिलेशन देखैबो, नॉट भी कपुला रे देखैबो, ता सहित तुमर जो साइंस ऑफ मोडालिटी आसला मस्ट में दे शुड बिलोंग टू द कपुला, दे शुड नॉट बिलोंग टू द प्रेडिकेट. All this is about the nature of logical copula. Now, students, we will move to the classification of propositions. So, propositions can be classified, can be divided in various ways according to different principles. From the standpoint of composition, propositions are divided into simple and compound propositions. What is a simple proposition? Simple proposition expresses a relation between subject term and predicate term. Simple proposition रे केवल गोटे subject term थिबो, predicate term थिबो और copula थिबो. It shows a relation between subject and predicate. Some men are honest. Here some men is your subject, honest is your predicate and are is your copula. So, this is a simple proposition and it shows a relation between subject and predicate. Now, what is a compound proposition? A compound proposition consists of two propositions or more than two propositions. गोटे कंपाउंड प्रपोजिशन भितरे दुईटा प्रपोजिशन रहिबो नहले दुईटारु बेसी प्रपोजिशंस रहिबो. Here either two predicates are assorted of one subject or one predicate is assorted of two subjects or different predicates are assorted of different subjects. Now, you see the examples. Meera is pretty and honest. This is a compound proposition. It contains two propositions. Meera is pretty and Meera is honest. So, this is a compound proposition. If I say both Meera and Leela are disciplined girls, this is also a compound proposition. It consists of two propositions. आ भितर दुईटा proposition अच्छी. One is Meera is a disciplined girl and the two is Leela is a disciplined girl. Then the next proposition, Ramu is neither at home nor at school. So, it is also a compound proposition. It consists of two propositions. Ram is not at school, Ram is not at home. So, these are all your compound propositions. In a compound proposition, when all the constituent propositions are affirmative, that is called a copulative proposition. For example, when I say Meera is pretty and honest, here Meera is pretty, Meera is honest, both are affirmative proposition. So, this is called a copulative proposition. Okay? जेतेबेले गोटे कंपाउंड प्रोपोजिशन भितर दुईटा जाक अफर्मेटिव प्रोपोजिशंस रहिथिबे ताकू कुहाजिबो कॉपुलेटिव प्रोपोजिशन. And when all the constituent propositions are negative propositions, then it is called a remotive proposition. For example, Sushil is neither hardworking nor intelligent. That means Sushil is not intelligent, Sushil is not hardworking. So, here both are negative propositions. So, this is called remotive proposition, remotive proposition. Now, there are exponable propositions. Exponable propositions, they look like simple propositions. से माने सिंपल परि देखा जाती बट एक्चुअली दोज आर नॉट सिंपल प्रपोजिशंस, those are compound propositions. Exponable propositions, they are of two types. One is exclusive proposition, the second is exceptive proposition. So, what is this exclusive proposition? समटाइम्स तुम देख केते गुडे प्रपोजिशंस अच्छी से प्रपोजिशन भितर केते गुडे वर्ड्स अच्छी ओनली एलोन नन बट यही वर्ड्स गुडा जदि थिबो तुम जानिबो जे सेटा होची एक्सक्लूसिव प्रपोजिशंस. सो प्रपोजिशंस कंटेनिंग these words like only alone none but these are called exclusive propositions. Why are they called exclusive propositions? Because the predicate says about some members of the class and it excludes all the members of the opposite class. एठी प्रेडिकेट सब्जेक्ट क्लास रो केते मेंबर विषय रे केते कंक विषय रे कुहे आ जो अपोजिट क्लास अछि ताकू सब एक्सक्लूड करी दिए. फॉर एग्जांपल none but the graduates are eligible for the post. So here you have the word none but. So this is an exclusive proposition. एटा को exclusive proposition कुहागला. It is actually this proposition is a compound proposition. It is a compound proposition. So what are the propositions we find in this proposition? आ भितर आमे कौन कौन proposition पाउछु? First पाउछु आमे प्रथमे तुमे एथिरे कौन करिवो सब्जेक्ट प्रेडिकेट रो प्लेस चेंज कर दबो आ ऑल लगेई दबो ताहेले आमे हमरो गोटे proposition आसी गला. Now, none but the graduates are eligible for the post ताकू तुम्हें करिबो all those eligible for the post are graduates. Subject predicate रो place change कर दला all those eligible for the post are graduates. Then no none dash graduates are eligible for the post. आ गोटे प्रपोजिशन मध्य हे परिबो some graduates are eligible for the post. Okay, so this is your exclusive proposition. Now we have exceptive proposition. Exceptive proposition means the predicate is affirmed or denied of the subject with some exception. Predicate subject को affirm करिवो नहले deny करूचे with some exception गोटे exception रहिथिबो सेतरे. For example, all metals except mercury are solid. So here you see we have the word except. This is an exceptive proposition. This is a compound proposition. It consists of two propositions. आ भितरे दुईटा proposition रहिला. गोटे हेला mercury is not solid and another proposition is all none dash mercury metals are solid. Okay. So this is your exceptive proposition. In exclusive proposition and exceptive propositions there are two propositions or more than two propositions and they look like simple propositions, but actually those are not simple propositions, those are compound propositions. Now we will move to the next classification of propositions. From the standpoint of relation, propositions can be classified into two groups, categorical and conditional. Then conditional propositions are also divided into three types: hypothetical, disjunctive and alternative. So from the standpoint of relation, we have two type of propositions, categorical and conditional. Now what is a categorical proposition? Categorical proposition आमे काहाकू कहिबा. In a categorical proposition, a relation is expressed between subject and predicate without any condition. तेणु गोटे कैटेगोरिकल प्रपोजिशन रे कोनोसी कंडीशन न थाए, केवल सब्जेक्ट रहिबो आउ प्रेडिकेट रहिबो एवं तुमर कपुला रहिबो. फॉर एग्जांपल, सन इज द सोर्स ऑफ लाइट. So sun is your subject, the source of light is your predicate, is your copula. So sun is the source of light, here there is no condition. So this is a categorical proposition. Categorical proposition expresses or shows a relation between the two terms. Okay. Now what is a conditional proposition? A conditional proposition expresses a relation between subject term and predicate term under certain conditions. कंडीशनल प्रपोजिशन रे सब्जेक्ट आउ प्रेडिकेट भितर रिलेशन रहिबो किंतु केते गुडे कंडीशन रही किंतु सेठी कंडीशन रहितिबो. ओके, सो दिस इज योर कंडीशनल प्रपोजिशन. नाउ वी विल डिस्कस व्हाट इज hypothetical proposition. You know, conditional propositions are of three types: hypothetical proposition, disjunctive proposition and alternative proposition. So, a hypothetical proposition is a conditional proposition having the form if then, having the form if then. तेणु hypothetical proposition टा होची गोटे conditional proposition, तार form होची if then. If there is sun, then there is light. If there is rain, then the ground will be wet. So, these are your hypothetical propositions if then rahichi. And the hypothetical proposition has two parts. One part is known as antecedent and second part is known as consequent. What is antecedent? Antecedent is that which contains the condition. जो पार्ट रे कंडीशन रहिबो सेटा को कुहा जाउची एंटीसीडेंट, आ जो पार्टटा फॉलो करिवो एंटीसीडेंट रु दैट इज कॉल्ड कंसीक्वेंट. सो हियर यू सी if there is sun, so there is sun is your antecedent. It contains the condition if there is sun, then there is light. There is light follows from the condition. So there is light is your consequent. So consequent says what will happen if the antecedent is fulfilled. जदि antecedent टा fulfill हे जिवो ताहेले कोन हबो. जदि sun थिबो, जदि सूर्य थिबो ताहेले light आसीबो. जदि सूर्य थिबो, this is your condition. If is the condition, this is the antecedent. Antecedent comes first, then follows the consequent. Consequent comes next. ता परे तुमरा consequent आसीबो. So it contains two parts. One is antecedent, second is consequent. Antecedent is prior, consequent is posterior. First comes antecedent, then comes consequent. So this is all about your hypothetical proposition. Now we will discuss a disjunctive proposition. A disjunctive proposition is a conditional proposition which is of the form either or. Disjunctive proposition गोटे conditional proposition, तार form होची either or. Now this or is used in the inclusive sense and it also can be used in the exclusive sense. Or the particular word or can be used in the inclusive sense and also can be used in the exclusive sense. ता माने कोन? ए जो और आमर रहिबो, there will be two alternatives, this or that, two alternatives will be there. Okay, when or is used in the inclusive sense, that means one of the alternatives must be true. गोटे alternative निश्चिंत भाबरे true हबो and truth of one includes the possibility of the truth of the other. गोटे जेमिति हेले ट्रू हबो किंतु दीटा जाक मध्य एकाठी ट्रू हेई पारिबो. दिस इज योर इनक्लूसिव सेंस ऑफ और. ओके, इनक्लूसिव सेंस रे आमे जत्ते बेले यूज करिवो ता भितरु दुईटा अल्टरनेटिव रु गोटे जेमिति हेले ट्रू हबो एंड बोथ आल्सो कैन बी ट्रू. ओके, व्हेन और इज यूज्ड इन द एक्सक्लूसिव सेंस means if one is true, if one alternative is true, it excludes the possibility of the truth of the other. जदि गोटे ट्रू हैला आरोटा आउ ट्रू हेई पारिबो नाही. Both cannot be true together. Okay, so inclusive रे दीटा जाक एकाठी ट्रू हेई पारिबो, exclusive रे गोटे ट्रू हबो, दीटा जाक एकाठी ट्रू हेई पारिबो नाही. So when or is used in the inclusive sense, it is called disjunctive proposition, and form is either or. When or is used in the exclusive sense, it is called alternative proposition, and the form is not both and. Okay? Disjunctive proposition pile dekho, Hari is either intelligent or diligent. Suppose Hari is one of your friends and he secures high marks in all the examinations. Sabu parikha re se bahut number rakhuche. So what will you say? You will say that Hari is either intelligent or diligent. Se bahut intelligent achi, nahele bahut parishrama karuche. Okay? Suppose you say he is not intelligent. से इंटेलिजेंट नुहे ताहले मार्क केमिति रखुची, ही मस्ट बी लेबरिंग हार्ड, बहुत परिश्रम करुथिबो. सो इफ यू डिनाय वन यू हैव टू अफर्म द अदर. गोटे को डिनाय कले आरटा को यस कहिबो. डिनायल लीड्स टू अफर्मेशन. बोथ कैन बी ट्रू टुगेदर. यू कैन से हरि इज बोथ इंटेलिजेंट एंड डिलिजेंट. दुईटा जाक एकाठी मध्य ट्रू हो पारिबो. बहुत पिला अछंती जो माने इंटेलिजेंट ता सहित मध्य बहुत लेबर करंती. ओके, सो denial leads to affirmation, but affirmation does not lead to denial. तमे जदि कहिलो हरि is intelligent, सेथिरु तुमे कहि परिबनी जे हरि is not diligent, ताको डिनाय करि परिबो नाही. काहेकि डिनाय करि परिबनी? कारण हरि can be both, हरि can be both intelligent and diligent. Okay, so this is your disjunctive proposition. Then alternative proposition. Alternative proposition is a conditional proposition having the form not both and. Okay? Ram cannot be born both in April and May. Okay? This is a proposition. Rama April au May दुईटारे जन्म हो पारिबो नाही. Suppose you say Ram is born in April. Ram is born in April. Then you have to deny the other. You will say no, Ram is not born in May. जदि एप्रिल रे बर्न हेची, एप्रिल रे जन्म हेची, पुणी मे रे केमती जन्म हबो? हबनी. सो अफर्मेशन लीड्स टू डिनायल. ओके, इफ वन इज अफर्म द अदर मस्ट बी डिनाइड. बोथ कैन बी डिनाइड टुगेदर. दुईटा जाक को तमे डिनाय करि परिबो. यू कैन से दैट हरि इज नॉट बर्न आइदर इन एप्रिल और इन मे. जदि हरि बर्न हेतिबो डिसेंबर रे, हरि बर्न हेतिबो जनवरी रे, then you can deny both. दुईटा जगह को एकाठी डिनाय कर दबो. But denial does not lead to affirmation. If you say Hari is not born in May, Hari is not born in May, सेठू कौन तुम्हें कहिबो जे yes Hari is born in April? No, this will be wrong. Hari may be born in April, Hari may be born in January, Hari may be born in February. So this is your alternative proposition. So disjunctive proposition is of the form either or. Alternative proposition is of the form not both and. Okay. So don't confuse between the disjunctive proposition and alternative proposition. केते गुडे पुराना बहिरे तम माने देखिवो जस्ट कांसेप्ट उल्टा लेखाइछि. disjunctive टा को लेखाइछि not both and और alternative को लेखाइछि either or. तेणु नुआ बही रे कॉन्सेप्ट चली आसीचे. तेणु नुआ बही तुमे देखिबो disjunctive proposition होछि either or आउ अल्टरनेटिव होछि not both and. एथिरे केबे मध्य तुमे कंफ्यूज करिवो नाही. So next classification of propositions. From the standpoint of significance, propositions can be divided into verbal and real proposition. So what is a verbal proposition? In a verbal proposition, the predicate repeats either a part or the whole of the connotation of the subject term. Verbal proposition रे predicate subject रो जो connotation थिबो ताको partially repeat करिवो नहेले wholly repeat करिवो, पूरा पूरी repeat करिवो. Okay, so predicate repeats either a part or the whole of the connotation of the subject term. If I say men are rational, man ro connotation kono? The connotation of man is rationality and animality. Okay, so when I say men are rational, I say the predicate is rational. So, the predicate repeats a part of the connotation of the subject term. It repeats a part of the connotation of the subject term. If I say men are rational animals, rational animal is predicate and it repeats the whole of the connotation of the subject term. Okay. So, here the truth or falsity of the proposition, verbal proposition, how can it be known? We can know the truth or falsity of this verbal proposition from the meaning of the subject term and the predicate term. If we know the meaning of the subject term, meaning of the predicate term, then we can know that this is a verbal proposition and it is a true proposition. So, this is all about your verbal proposition, and this is also known as analytic proposition. Why it is called analytic proposition? Because if we analyze the meaning of the subject term, we can find the predicate term. जदि मैन रो मीनिंग को तुम्हें एनालाइज करिवो तुम्हें जानिबो मैन रो मीनिंग रे अछि रैशनैलिटी आ एनिमलिटी, तार कनोटेशन होछि रैशनैलिटी एंड एनिमलिटी. जदि एनालाइज करि दबो यू कैन नो दैट मेन आर रैशनल. दिस इज ए ट्रू प्रपोजिशन, बट दीज प्रपोजिशंस आर not derived from your experience. So, here the proposition can be accepted or rejected by looking at the meanings of the terms. If we know the meaning of the term, if we analyze the meaning of the term, then we can know whether this is a true proposition or a false proposition. Now, in a real now the next one is real proposition. Now, what is a real proposition? In a real proposition, the predicate says something new about the subject term. The predicate says something new about the subject term. Here, the predicate does not repeat either a part or the whole of the connotation of the subject term. Repeat करे नहीं, connotation को repeat करे नहीं. So, real propositions are known as synthetic propositions, because here the proposition in the proposition the predicate says something new about the subject term. It synthesizes a new quality with the subject. So, this is called a real proposition or synthetic proposition, because it synthesizes a new quality with the subject term. Okay? And these propositions are obtained from our experience. In order to know whether this proposition is a true proposition or false proposition, we have to see how the things really are in this world. So, this is all about your real proposition. Now, from the standpoint of modality, propositions are divided into necessary, assertory and problematic propositions. Necessary proposition, you know, the predicate is necessarily related to the subject. There is a necessary relation between the subject and the predicate. 2 plus 2 must be 4. A triangle must have 3 angles. These are your necessary propositions. Two things of the world cannot be necessarily related. World रा कौनसी जिनसा necessarily related हेई पारिबे नाही. Okay? So, necessary propositions, they do not have any factual significance. We do not get the propositions from our experience. This is your necessary proposition. Then assertory proposition, here predicate is related to the subject as a matter of fact. Okay? If I say some students are honest, this is an assertory proposition, because I get this proposition from my experience and this has factual significance. And after observing the students, I can say whether it is a true proposition or it is a false proposition. This is assertory. Then problematic propositions. Here the relation between subject and predicate is probable. When we are uncertain about the relation, we express it in the problematic form. My friend may come to my house today. This is a problematic proposition. May is the sign of problematic proposition. So, here necessary propositions have logical necessity, assertory propositions have factual necessity, but problematic propositions do not have any factual necessity. So, these are the propositions from the standpoint of modality. Then we will discuss the classification of propositions from the standpoint of quality. From the standpoint of quality, we can classify the propositions into two types, affirmative and negative. In an affirmative proposition, predicate is affirmed of the subject, that means there is a positive relation between subject and predicate. Tigers are wild animals, eti not nahi, so this is affirmative proposition. There is a positive relation between tigers and wild animals. Then in a negative proposition, the predicate is denied of the subject. There is negative relation between subject and predicate. Some fruits are not sweet. Here there is the negative sign not. So, predicate is denied of the subject. This is called negative proposition. Then the next classification is from the standpoint of quantity. From the standpoint of quantity, there are two types of propositions. One is universal, second is particular proposition. Now, what is a universal proposition? In a universal proposition, the predicate is affirmed or denied of the entire class of the subject term. एठी आमे सब्जेक्ट रो एंटायर क्लास टाको नौचु यूनिवर्सल प्रोपोजिशन रे प्रेडिकेट says something about the whole class of the subject term. It is known as universal proposition. If I say all crows are black, here the predicate is black and subject is all crows and the predicate is affirmed of the entire class of the crows. Here we say about the whole class of the crows, about the entire class of the crows. So, we mean each and every crow is black. So, this is your universal propositions. Sometimes you will have singular proposition. Singular proposition means which stands for a single object or for a single individual. Singular proposition माने गोटिए object गोटिए individual पाई सेटा use हेइथिबो. When singular propositions, we have singular propositions and the subject terms refer to definite individuals, then those propositions will be universal propositions. Definite individuals means there will not be any doubt in your mind regarding that individual, regarding that object. If I say Mahanadi is the longest river of Odisha, when I say Mahanadi, all of you understand which river I mean, ko river ko mu mean koruchi tume jani parucho. So, Mahanadi means it is a definite thing, definite object, definite river. And if I say Plato is a great philosopher, this also is a universal proposition because Plato refers to a definite individual. These are singular propositions and they stand and the subjects stand for definite individuals. So, these are your universal propositions. Then what is a particular proposition? Particular proposition means when the predicate is affirmed or denied of a part of the denotation of the subject term, the proposition is said to be a particular proposition. जोठी subject रे आमे entire class को mean करिबुनी, we mean only some members of the class. When the predicate says about some members of the class, that proposition is said to be a particular proposition. Some girls are not sincere. So, here this is a negative proposition, this is also a particular proposition because we say some girls, we do not say, we do not mean the entire class of the girls, we mean only some girls. So, this is a particular proposition. And sometimes you will have singular propositions where the subject terms stand for indefinite individuals or objects, and those propositions are called particular propositions. When I say a dog is running or a boy is playing, these are particular propositions. When I say a dog is running, you cannot know which dog I mean. A dog, this is indefinite term, you cannot know which dog. When I say a boy is playing, you cannot know which boy is playing, who is playing. So, there will be doubt in your mind regarding the person and regarding the animal. So, you cannot know which dog I mean, which boy I mean. So, this is indefinite singular term and this is known as particular propositions. So, students, in the next class we will discuss the classification of propositions from the standpoint of mixed principles of quality and quantity. Then we will discuss the reduction of propositions to their logical forms. So, thank you students.